talk about building smart, and Marcello is going to cover the market fast component of this presentation. So hands up if everyone's seen this diagram, graph. No, okay. Oh yes, nice, all right. So this is fun. This is a growth staircase or a growth curve. It's more a diagram, but what it shows is really these plateaus of where 96% of businesses tend to stay around. And when they try to jump over that valley to the 4%, they call this the Valley of Death. It's a great name. I'd like to reframe it because I think it's a valley of innovation. It's really where your business is, you're burning resources, capital, time, focus to get to that next plateau. So it's a really innovative period, and for people who are innovating, it can be a fast-paced, exciting moment to be in. It's business. But so how do you de-risk this journey as an entrepreneur, as a tech founder, as a product lead or anything? And we've got a few principles that we work with the teams that we engage with. There's many more principles, but these are the 4 topics that always come up. I've got 15 minutes, so I'm kind of burning through this. So validate early. This is one of the most crucial steps and one of the bite-sized steps. The first reality check is that 42% of failed startups cite no market need. So they just didn't test anything in the market. They didn't talk to users. They didn't talk to prospects. So it's a really good gut check. And the thing to get us around that is this idea of an MVP, minimum viable product. We've all heard elements of that. The key outcomes from an MVP is to test someone's willingness to pay, attract early champions. You get some pricing signals from that because you can tier your pricing and see what attracts someone. You can de-risk the tech assumptions. You can start surfacing some of the UX friction and challenges around that. And then you can seed your analytics if you have maybe a pre-existing product where you're releasing a new feature and you want to test the waters on that. But really, I like to boil it down to this. If you solve this problem, will people pay for it? Will they use it? And if you follow the lean methodology, it's the will people pay is the main point of conversion. If you can get there, then you're onto something really exciting. Maybe next. Oh, it is, yes. Good catch. Okay, so it finally went. The problem with an MVP is it's really misconstrued these days. I see it all the time on social media. People talk about launching MVPs, and with teams and businesses, they talk about MVPs, but what they end up deploying is the final product. So then they put all these marketing dollars and innovation dollars behind it, but that's not an MVP. That's your beta. That's your first product launch. An MVP is supposed to be minimum viable, like cardboard, paper, popsicle stick level scrappiness. So I've got a few examples here. Dropbox, when they first launched, they did it with a 3-minute explainer video. They didn't even have a product. They just had a video. They launched it, and their wait list went from 5,000 to 75,000 users, me being one of those. And they didn't even have a product yet. They just validated the need. Airbnb, I'm sure we've all heard this story as well. They had an air mattress in their apartment, and they put up a simple website during a conference. People signed up, paid $80 a night. Again, great validation. Someone's willing to part with those dollars. And I think Couchsurfing.com kind of validated that. Groupon's one of my favorites because it is so lo-fi. They use WordPress. It's just a blogging tool. They offered a deal a day, and the team would manually create these PDFs and email them over to the users. Just a swivel chair, a lot of manual activity, but it worked. And something like Lovable helps you take an MVP to maybe the next level quicker. And an MVP should only be something that you deliver in 24 to 72 hours, right? Just test quickly. It's gonna be scrappy. Even if you use something like Lovable, it's not product ready, but get it out there, get it into people's hands. So yeah, first point here is to not waste time perfecting something that no one needs. Next bit is one of my favorites. It's prototype to learn. This is where I spend a lot of my time. So your MVP was a success. Amazing, congratulations. And then you've, of course, written your product requirements to hand off to your design team or your prototypers. I hope so. We see a lot of companies actually skip this step, and it's really short. Just write out a short list of requirements, get them into the hands of your designer, and they'll at least have something to follow. The problem we see most with teams is that they consider prototyping as a bit more of this like waterfall approach, very linear, but this is at the 10,000 foot level. The reality is that prototyping should be iterative, and you should stay in that cycle until you've happily weeded out as much ambiguity as possible. So prototype, test, analyze, define, then bring it straight back to prototyping and do it again.
My question for you is, I'm in an interesting predicament where we have been using tools such as Lovable to be able to create those initial prototype versions to start iterating. So now we have a lot of people who are advising, okay, we're ready to use the real thing, because with apps like Lovable, it looks like it's done, it's real, you're good to go, right? So when you have people who are now very eager and excited to use what you are building with these AI tools, it's the demo version, right? It's not the functional version that has the back end, that has an ability to scale. So how do developers for today's age communicate that to audiences of, yeah, it looks like it's a done, finished product, but that's because we're using AI, so you can test it, so you can give us feedback, so you can, have the experience, but we still need you on a wait list because, that's why we're here raising money. So how do you communicate that now? Because it's a new, I guess, landscape, I think, that developers are in, and I just want to know some language and terminology that might be good to be able to educate your customers for. It looks good, but it's not the finished version you're going to pay for yet.
Right. Oh, that's a great question, because it's a bit about marketing as well, and then how you're selling this to your pre-existing users or your investors. But really what you have right now is a proof of concept. Like it is not scalable. So when you frame it as a proof of concept, then you're telling your audience that we're almost ready, we've got something to play with, but we now need to get ready to scale to however many users. So prototype. Not just how it looks, it's the filter for defining that value and reducing that ambiguity. So next reality check, we've got 80% of features in an average product are rarely ever used. So don't invest that time into features of a product that are likely not going to be used. It's always coming back to that core offering. Your MVP should have taught you everything you need to know about what you need to embed here. Everything else is just adjacent and additional. Prototyping is amazing because it's that low risk, low cost. Teams who prototype tend to see 60% less rework, 30% faster to market. These are great industry stats. But the best part of this is that fixes in design are way cheaper than dev costs, because a designer pushing something 100 pixels to the right or moving it to a different screen, way cheaper than getting your developer to open up their IDE, recode it, reposition it, deploy it, test it. Like the list goes on for why that is 100 times more expensive than a designer. Of course, AI is helping with that, but so with prototyping, you do not have to start from scratch. You've got all of these UI kits out there. There's like 3 that we recommend. There's ShadCN, Ant, and Material UI. And these get your design team out of the gate really quick. These are reusable components. These are pretty much drag and drop within the prototyping context. The other benefit is that most of these libraries have companion code systems, so your developers have an equally drag and drop system that they can also utilize. But the biggest thing with prototyping is user testing. You now have a prototype, whether it's built with Lovable or built in Figma. There's tools out there like Maze that you should be feeding this into and then shipping out to users and friendlies alike to collect quantitative and qualitative data on how people are using it. This is going to surface all of those UX gaps or those amazing ideas you have that end up maybe falling flat on the front end when they're actually in front on a screen. So some 3 points here. We've got test early and often. I covered that. Most users are going to figure out the gaps in your experience early on just by using it. Keep sketching it. Sketch it first, polish later. Stay as rough as possible, because even in the lo-fi stages, it's easy to change. But as you progressively go to higher fidelity, as you start applying brand or building out a design system, it gets harder and harder to change quickly. So even your design debt tends to go up. So stay in the sketch phase as much as possible until you're ready to confidently move forward. And then quantity leads to quality. Just keep it fast, iterate as much as possible. Small experiences are way better than one big bet. So build lean. Another gut check on the stats here. So 60 to 70% of a product's lifetime budget goes to maintenance. Not a great place to be spending your time if you're not delivering any new value. And that's often the case if you try to scale too early out of the gate. We see this a lot of the time with teams and existing businesses is they just scale for those 10,000 users rather than the 10 or the hundreds. Just get it working for that small group. The technology can come later. The behind the curtain chaos, remember Groupon? They were doing things manually. There's a lot of swivel chair in that, and that's fine. Your users don't need to know that that's happening in the background. They need to latch on to the service and the value. So expect the chaos. It's perfectly normal. And then assemble, don't invent. This is where we get a little bit more technical as well, but there's just so much out there. There's what's called low code, no code, APIs, and it's so easy to build things these days with all of these tools before you even need to let code hit any sort of road. So custom build the magic you can't buy, and Wizard of Oz the rest. So scaling intentionally. So 12% of features drive 80% of daily usage. This is really echoing that point about 80% of those features not getting used, right? So you need to let the numbers silence the loudest opinions. You have a product to test, and you have users that you can test with. So make sure that you install all of the proper tools to collect feedback, behavior, and then combine that qualitative and quantitative information together, because what users tell you versus what they actually do is so starkly different from one another. So you need both types of data, and there's tools to help you along with that I can walk you through after. Score the opportunities. This is really a prioritization framework at the end of the day, and you're going to get a lot of feedback, a lot of false positives and negatives. This scoring system, RICE, reach, impact, confidence, if you follow the equation, it actually nets you a numerical value, which is really cool because it removes the emotion out of the feature. It's a signal at the end of the day, and you don't need to follow it for any emotional reasons. Okay. Shipping lean experiments. Launching these lean experiments when you have a pre-existing product is really important, and there's some really creative ways that you can do this. You can set feature flags, or what I like to call the painted door. It's a common term in the product industry where you kind of just fake it. You put a button in your navigation, you put a button on your landing page, say sign up for the beta, sign up for the wait list. You almost nudge people into telling you whether or not it's a feature or a product that they're interested in. You don't even have to build it. You collect that data, you find out if they're interested, and now you have some signals that will tell you, let's build. Now, of course, there's other things around that, like maybe the button's just in the wrong spot, but hopefully you've got some other analytics to track that. So data is the antidote to gut feel, and also sometimes the smartest growth hack is deletion. So that's my segment, 4 principles. I'm going to pass it over to Marcello Gortana.